Hi everyone, and welcome to the Open Door Q&A session today. I'm Alice Roche. I'm the Head of Operations here at Charity Digital. I'll be your host for today's session. I thought it would be a good idea to start with some context about who Charity Digital are, a little bit about our mission for those that don't know. So Charity Digital are a charity themselves, and our mission is helping others increase their impact by being more digital. We have two primary charitable activities. So that is providing access to donated and discounted software products, and they're at dramatically reduced prices. And then the second charitable aim is to publish content. So that's articles, podcasts, webinars, etc., that educate the charity professionals and volunteers on how to make better use of digital tools. So we are here today to answer any questions that you may have about the services that we provide, or give you any guidance and tips and knowledge that we've learned along the way. Before we begin, I just want to remind you that the webinar is recorded. The recording, slides and supporting resources will be made available to you over the coming days. So keep an eye on your inbox. If you have a question you would like answered, please do pop it in the chat box. We've received some questions in advance, so thank you for those if you have submitted them. We will run through those to start, and then we'll make our way through the chat box questions. So once the session ends, you will be prompted for feedback, and we would love to hear your thoughts on how we can continue to improve your organisation. So please take a few minutes to share your thoughts. So I know we're having a few introductions in the conversation so far, which is great. Someone's saying they're from Edinburgh. I'm actually going to Edinburgh this weekend, so I'm very excited for that. I love Edinburgh, big fan. Hi, Erin, lovely to meet you. So let's go to the first question. So yeah, the way this is going to be run is very much just Q&A based, so we're not presenting anything to you. So we'll go to the first question that has already been asked, which is from a heritage trust that says, "Dear Charity Digital team, we have been provided with Microsoft 365 Business Premium licenses free of charge under the non-profit scheme. Can we get any more?" Great question. I'm going to pass over to Joel, who is our Microsoft expert here.
Thank you, Alice. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, to answer that question, yeah, you can certainly get more business premium licenses, but no more will be granted or free, as you put it there. So you get the first 10 for free, and then any after that will be at a discounted rate. We actually provide them at a further discount to Microsoft, which is around, it's £4.11 per user per month. So a little further discount there. So if you can take, if you like the business premium subscription, then yeah, come to us so we can help you out with that.
Excellent. So another one is, what level of cover do we need as an organisation? We have had two different quotes which were worlds apart and could do with an idea of what cover we would have in the first place.
Okay, might need a bit of clarity on what cover they're referring to with that one, but thank you for the question though. So I'm not quite sure what the quotes are for cover wise, whether it's for Microsoft or whether it's for antivirus or something like that, but the person's here in chat can either clarify that, or if you're watching this later, maybe if you want to drop us an email to our customer service inbox, which will be revealed at the call, I'm certainly more than happy to go through that with you. That's no problem.
No problem. Yeah, that was someone's from Women's Aid. So if you are on the call, then feel free to just pop in the chat box. Excellent. So I'm just going to keep firing through, and like we said, do pop, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat box. So the next one is, I am struggling with Microsoft Teams. I want to update, but it says I don't have admin rights. I am the only employee of a charity, so therefore they must be the admin. So Joel, can you answer that one?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's I'm not sure why that happens, but I have spoken to people who've come across that issue, where if you are the only user but you don't have global admin rights, it's certainly a Microsoft thing. Before you bite the bullet and go to them directly for support, you might want to double check your 365 admin portal to see if there are any other usernames that were created during that process. What I mean by that is that when you first created the portal, you might have created an account maybe with like a generic name like info at then your charity.onmicrosoft.com or something like that. And then further down the line, you might have added another user account in there. That's quite common. And when you add a user account, that won't automatically have global admin rights. Only the main account can assign global admin rights to multiple users. But if that is the case, and there's only one user on there, then you will need to go to Microsoft for that. And yeah, Joe, I saw in chat there. Thanks for the clarity on the previous question regarding cover. So it's Cyber Essentials. The main point I would say on that is our friends at the National Cyber Security Centre. They provide cyber essentials and lots of sort of advice for charities, particularly those from micro to small and medium, which is great. I would say that would be the first starting point. Wouldn't be able to say what your quote if it's great or not, because we don't provide cyber essentials ourselves, but definitely something you want to check with the NCSC. But you can use us for part of your cyber security protection, as we provide like different types of antivirus as well, like Avast as well. Email protection is included with some Microsoft 365 subscriptions like Windows Defender. So when it comes to the physical side things of antivirus, that side of thing, we can help you out with that. But yeah, definitely National Cyber Security Centre will be your next stop.
Thank you, Joel. So somebody is looking for advice about the best free contact or CRM system to manage their database of participants, volunteers, stakeholders. Less of a requirement for donor management at this stage, but it's about finding a system that matches our needs for holding information about health conditions, disabilities, etc. Zoho and Salesforce have non-profit offers, don't they, Joel?
They do, yeah. I saw that question. That's the first thing that came to mind. Zoho and Salesforce, both great in different ways. One can be a little bit, Salesforce can maybe a little bit difficult to set up initially. As well, but the outcome at the end of Salesforce can be really good. Zoho definitely has non-profit startup options available, and I know that a few people in our organization has experience of Zoho, and there always seems to be a thumbs up on that one. As a side note to Zoho as well, I'm not sure this for free offer, but you might want to check out one of their smaller options, which is called Bigin. Something I stumbled across recently. You can find it on Zoho websites, but it might be depends on what you're looking for from the CRM. But if you want a simpler start with like capturing data, that kind of thing, then Bigin might be a good place to go to as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Joel. So Joel is our programs manager at Charity Digital. I realised I actually didn't do introductions, so you'll see that there's 4 of us here from Charity Digital. And Joel looks after our cybersecurity, so Avast and Microsoft and all the big ones. So the next question is, we need more software to help our social media advancements. Which are the ones we could go for? So Liz, I'm going to come to you for this one.
Yeah, more software in terms of
So helping social media advancements. So I think Adobe's really good for that. Adobe Express has social media scheduling, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I would have to just pass this over to Joel as well, because you're sort of more into the social media scene there, Joel.
A little bit, yeah. But yes, that's a great question. And when I think of people in marketing, there's certain softwares, don't think that's a word, excuse me. There's certain software that always stands out to marketeers for me. Adobe is the main one, because marketeers are very creative people. You've got the Adobe Creative Cloud. Adobe Express is great as it has something called social media scheduling, which is a bit of a hot topic right now in the marketeer world. Both of these products that we provide at Charity Digital, with Adobe Express being free for 10 users as well, and they connect together as well. So I would definitely say Adobe. And another one that I always think of with marketeers is actually Asana. I know that marketers like to be especially organized with their lives. So organizing all your tasks together with Asana is another good starting point as well. Then you go into the land of specifics really of what you need to do within your organization from a marketing point of view, which is which would be down to you or something like that. Would Liz, would any of that be crossing over with digital anyway, or was that more just the mail?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about that because there's loads of things that you can do with a crossover with an email marketing platform. So the product that we've got is .digital, which we sell to the charity and non-for-profit scene. And yeah, there's loads of things that you could do to amalgamate it and incorporate it in. There's lots of social sharings, there's lots of social sort of links, and yeah, if they wanted to explore sort of going down that route, linked to email marketing as well, then that would be the best route, to look for a good email marketing platform as well.
Yeah, definitely. Great answers. Thank you both. So there was a question on the best way to set up a website to develop courses with payments and donations. So quite a specific question, but as a starting point, you may want to look at Donor Perfect as a CRM, and that specializes in collecting donations. And then Wix is a really good tool for creating websites. David Adams, who I feel like you are like our honorary Charity Digital employee, because you're just so brilliant on these Q&As at putting answers in the chat. So please do, if you know of other websites that help with payments and donations, please do feel free to pop them in and do our job for us. So let's move on to the next one. So we are more like an agency of members. So we have people sign up to be members, but they don't pay a membership fee. I am currently the lead as I find the contracts and pay the members once the work is completed. The computer I use is an old Mac. What I need to know is what must I have in place and what help can I get to update my computer and cybersecurity certificates?
Okay, sure. I think I can help with that. Old Mac mate gave me a bit of a fright there. So if you're looking to replace the device, Charity Digital actually provides discounts for some of our hardware partners at Dell and Lenovo as well. You might also want to check out our friends at InKind Direct as well, where they often have hardware offers which they can donate to certain types of charities as well, which is really great. As well as that, cybersecurity is a really important topic in the charity sector. There's lots of stats around, particularly that we've spoken about in Charity Digital in the past, about how under threat the charity sector is, and that's mostly because charities, it could be limited things like overheads or budgets that they may not always be able to either afford the cybersecurity or not really quite understand the importance of it. So as I mentioned earlier with one of the previous answers, you might want to take a look at the National Cyber Security Centre for advice on how to really implement a cybersecurity aware culture within your organization, making certain steps like making sure apps are up to date, not to open any suspicious looking links and emails, really get a basic culture, and to support that, then get the software to help you out with that. So as we mentioned already, so things like Avast or Microsoft Defender for email protection as well. I would say, that was it. I'd say those are the main starting points, I would say.
Excellent. Seems that cybersecurity is a hot topic in the questions today, actually. So somebody from Noah Enterprise has said that they've been asked by funders for Cyber Essentials accreditation. However, they're limited in resources and they don't have dedicated IT staff. Do you have any advice on how to achieve this? So I think that'll be another one signposted back to the NCSC, which is the National Cybersecurity Centre, as they've got some brilliant starting points. And we also have some articles and previous webinars on cybersecurity that maybe James can pop some resources when we send those round. But yeah, it seems like cybersecurity is a hot topic for sure.
Good to hear.
Yeah, it is. So there was a similar question about an individual working in a digital marketing role for a small charity. Which software would you recommend that we could invest in as the charity implements its first marketing plan? Yeah, Asana, Adobe Creative Cloud, Canva. We really love Canva internally. Yeah, Adobe Express, that'd be one. Yeah,
Adobe Express. .mailer as well, CD mail as well.
Yeah, exactly. Which is all provided through Charity Digital, and other places as well. But what was the next one? So I am using, so this is Erin from Edinburgh, my friend from Edinburgh. I am using contactless card machines to take donations at our upcoming festival. This is the first time I'm doing this, and I have very little knowledge of whether I can connect these machines to an online fundraising platform to handle gift aid, if nothing else. If so, which would be the best? I'm not even sure I'm writing the right questions.
As a starting point, you mentioned it earlier, you might want to do a little bit of research on Donor Perfect. It's a CRM for specifically designed for collecting donations. We provide it ourselves for a discount, but before obviously making a purchase like that, just make sure you do your research on the product as well. In terms of how you're collecting donations, I'm not sure if you've already got that set up, but you might want to take a look at BOP as well. BOP use like QR code software to collect donations, which could be particularly useful at a festival. I mean, I'm not sure how the festivities are at this festival, and if there's any sort of drinking involved or anything like that. Probably not. It's probably the investment that comes to my mind, but people may not want to be handling numbers and just want to tap. So I may have got that completely wrong and revealed a side of myself then by thinking it's a drinking festival, but hey.
So QR codes not so useful. So BOP might not work in that instance because it is a bit of an older audience. Erin has responded, but definitely, would you recommend looking at Donor Perfect?
In terms of collecting the funds and keeping together, that might be a starting point in itself.
Yeah, so I think some research. I wonder if we've got any content on it, James. I wonder if on our Charity Digital website, because they'll
we've definitely got a lot of content. I'll ensure that we link to all articles when we send this round. We do have Infuse, which is a fundraising platform. I will do some research into whether that can be used in person, but we'll have a full answer for you as soon as we send these resources round in the coming days.
Excellent. So there is another one. Microsoft provide Microsoft 365 cloud accounts. Say that when you've had a few accounts free of charge to registered charities. This allows them to use Word, Excel free of charge with their data held in the cloud. Microsoft do not support Microsoft Access databases in the same way. I believe it's possible to use an Access database in conjunction with MS Azure SQL Server. Do you know if this could be achieved at minimal or no cost for charities? This is a good one to have a preemptive one because it gave us time to digest and then come up with an answer. But Joe, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of this one. I mean, I wouldn't say servers are my name, are my main name, but I think I can give you a couple of starting points for that. Firstly, before I go on, I just wanted to clarify that Microsoft subscriptions, they are free of charge to eligible staff members of a charity, not just anybody in the charity. So they're not, be careful of giving free licenses to volunteers that are not in leadership positions, that kind of thing. So just watch out for that. But you might want to have a look at Microsoft Azure for nonprofits. We can link the page for that shortly and actually apply for a grant. The last time I checked, I think it's around $3,000 worth of Azure credits, which you can link with that. It might have changed recently, actually. And Access as well. I mean, I'm not sure if you're referring to Access, the Access app, because there are certain types of 365 subscriptions which have Access included for PC only. such as Microsoft 365 Business Premium. But you mentioned there you're talking about sort of free of charge licenses, so you might be using Business Basic, which won't have that included. But as a starting point, take a look at Azure for Nonprofits and see if you can apply for a grant and help you out with that.
Thank you, Joel. I know that was a technical one, but hopefully that person can get in touch if they need further clarity around that. Okay, so now we're moving on to the questions in the chat. So what are good fundraising platforms to use? We are looking to raise more income digitally. That's from Sophie Stevens. So James, do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, as I said, I'll do a little bit of research on Infuse, just because that's not my area of expertise at the moment. But we mentioned BOP earlier, so that is a QR code system. So you create your own code, people can scan it, and then it will directly open their banking app, and that will have all of your details filled out. So all they've got to do is type in the amount that they want to donate, and then press it, and then that will connect securely to your bank account, straight into your bank account. There's a free option available, and then I think there's another one which is £10 a month, but those depend on how much you need to process. So if you're not going to reach that, limit, then you can just do the free one. And I think there's maybe a 0.5% transaction fee on each transaction, but it's super easy. They just scan, type in the amount, and then donate. And from what I've heard, it's worked really well for companies such as like PTs or PTAs. So really improved their fundraising by hundreds of %, we've been told by Bob. So I'll post that in the chat. And then yes, Infuse also. Are there any additional ones I've missed, Joel?
Just thought of Donor Perfect again. I've said it a few times today. That might be able to help. It's a fundraising platform.
Fab. And then the next one from Soph was, how can we be more cyber secure when we are working from the train/cafes? Have you got any tips?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, of course, it's a really important question, and that certainly arisen out of what the world's gone through of working mobile or that type of thing as well. In terms of if you're using Microsoft, they have a program, a subscription called Enterprise Mobility and Security, which helps you protect mobile devices if you are away from outside of the office, help you employ things like two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication is something that's really important these days. The cafe question, that's an interesting one, because obviously you're going to get all types of people from using the device every day. Just want to make sure that you can make sure that its antivirus is fully up to date and that you have the ability to control that remotely. Rather than having to always visit the device, you might want to look at something like, say, Avast, where you can control the device, its protection remotely, rather than having to physically go to the device to look for any threats or anything like that as well. And again, same thing with the cafe as well. Just make sure that you've got like the two-factor authentication set up, or multi-factor, and also just be diligent with your internal processes as well, in terms of how to handle data that's sort of received through that device. Again, I think we're giving a big shout out today is National Cyber Security Centre as well for that one. Is definitely going to be your next spot.
Thank you, Joel. So we have had a question on what recommended ad spend would you suggest for Google display ads and search ads? So full disclosure, no one on this call from Charity Digital is a marketer or a growth expert. We work in the operations team. So that means that we are on the customer service, sales and e-commerce side. So we don't have a marketing representative on this call. And we have a brilliant growth expert who I'm happy to put people in touch with. And he's really enthusiastic and would love to help people, because he's got all these brilliant ideas of how charities can grow their audience and However, we did put this question to him and he came back with, in general, I like to have a minimum £25 ad spend per individual ad to determine if it's a good ad based on click-through rates and cost per clicks. This is just to give it enough spend to get enough of a sample size in deliverability to determine if it's good or bad. This answer depends on your goals for the ads and where you're at. So for example, if you have traffic already that you just want to look to convert, you may put more budget into retargeting. If you don't, you may want to use more of the budget on search or GDN for new traffic. And then for a general answer, he said he would recommend putting 65% on new traffic and 35% of the budget on retargeting. But it obviously really depends on case-by-case basis. And I know that we had, from Danielle, I'm sure we had some questions on ads and how long to run an ad per, to get stuff back. I think we can. Oh, you've already posted his response, James. Thank you. Yeah, we put it to our growth expert essentially. Has he sent the answers?
He has. So I will include it again in this article that's being sent round. But Danielle, yeah, I will send that directly to you. If you've got any extra questions, feel free to send them back and I'll ask him to fill in the blanks. But yeah, he's really useful. So feel free to message me at any time.
Yeah, he's a bit of a growth whiz. So
He is.
yeah, well, it's good to know that we should have perhaps got him on the call, but it's great that he's able to answer questions so promptly. So yeah, I thought I'd give that full disclosure, but we're more than happy to put you in touch with the right people as well. So how on earth do I go about making a selfie filter? Erin, you and me both. I've got no idea how one does that. Even David Adams doesn't know. Even David Adams is shaking his head. Does anyone know about how we make a selfie filter?
The only filter I know is if I take a picture of my wife, apparently I make her look 2 stone heavier. That's the only photo. That's the only filter I know.
Yes, there is something about men taking photos of us that is instantly terrible.
I would imagine that the programs that we've talked about already, Canva and Adobe Express, have this functionality.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that, but I will do some research and we'll look into that for you.
Excellent. So there was one from a freelancer, a very interesting question. How do you see AI software changing this space and how digital fundraising is done? For example, ChatGPT and others can create content quickly and efficiently. Do you think understanding how to feed it to the right content will become a thing? So feels like this one's a bit above us. It's not really our specialty. However, our brilliant content team have written an article about this, which James has just popped in the chat now. So it was tech trends for 2023. It's a really big question and a really interesting one. So hopefully that can help. And then I think, unless there are more in the chat, we should be coming to the end of the questions. I think just 1 or 2 more. So in the last year, I've started as the web editor of a small blood cancer charity. We have a content-heavy, quite slow, old-fashioned, but well-used website that was developed by a team in 2014. The site has grown organically over the years and has a muddled structure and confusing messages. It's very much in need of an uplift and overhaul. That's not a question, but then there is a question underneath. Separately.
Yeah, I think it's 2 parts to it, I think.
Okay. We'd be grateful we could get some advice about budgets to expect and some trusted web development companies, agencies that would be worth approaching for tendering. Right, so they're currently at the very early stages of scoping out a complete redesign, researching budgets, gathering ideas and looking at possibilities and options. Does anybody, David, would you know? Does anyone in the chat know? I know you help with IT support. Some trustworthy options.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure it's the right thing to say that I do that, but but to be honest with you, I'm very simple websites. I'm not a very creative person. I'm more kind of technical. But one thing to consider are the freelancer type websites. Fiverr, freelancer.co.uk. They would certainly be a place to check out, fees and that kind of stuff. Certainly in my experience, if you kind of go to a proper website developer, you're looking at low thousands, which is, not an insignificant amount of money. You can potentially try, or rather, in my experience, if you try and kind of split the work, so instead of saying to the developer, you do everything and come back to me, actually saying I'll do the copy, I'll do, provide all the images, and, we'll work together on the structure. If you can get that kind of partnering relationship, then you can tend to get it down to, low, hundreds, maybe 500, 600. The websites that I tend to do are more like 300 because I'm not very good at them. But if you look around, you can get them for low hundreds. That's, but obviously, you come to somebody like me, I'm not a creative person. I could not just go away and produce a website for somebody because I'm just not, I can't even match my ties to my shirt, let alone make a website look good. I'm not sure whether that's helpful, but yeah,
no, it was. Yeah,
really
that is really helpful.
Nice shout out for Fiverr as well. Obviously, you might it's a good one for putting that one up for Fiverr, and possibly Wix is somewhere in there. I'll kind of preempt it. I think I've seen the second question which links to this regarding how else. There's a free domain website available at the moment by PIR where your domain ends in the term .charity, which is available free for charities at the moment if you're looking for your own domain. So that might be something that you might want to look into as well, as domain hosting is a vast world in itself as well, and outside of televised things like GoDaddy, it's there's you don't know where to start, so maybe you might want to check out that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know that the second part of their question was about a good hosting website for WordPress that is particularly tailored for charities. We'd be grateful for any support or suggestions that you could give us. So we mentioned PIR, Joel. Yeah, so that's the one that really comes to mind, but happy to do a bit of research if that person's on this call and go away and come back to you. And if you're based in Manchester. Excellent. Are there any more, James, or?
So Erin's asked about using NFTs for fundraising, but then also being climate conscious within doing so. I'm sure we've got an article about this. I don't have it to hand, but we will source it. If we don't, then our whole focus for this year with content is about the climate crisis. So if we don't have an article on it already, that I'm sure will be produced in the near future. So when that is made, I will send that across to you. If it exists, I will send it to you even sooner.
I'm sure something came out at least last year about NFTs and that side of thing. I'm sure
I've seen it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, and then there's one from Victoria about community interest companies not entitled to the same offers as charities. Are you aware of this? Yes, painfully so, painfully aware of it actually, because our donation and discounted product catalogue unfortunately isn't available for KICs and social enterprise organisations, which is really, really disappointing for us, but it is a requirement, an eligibility requirement of our donors and our partners. It's not actually us. We would love to extend our offering, but because we offer through our TechSoup network, it's out of our hands. Unfortunately, we don't have full control over our catalogue. So it's something that we are in communications with the TechSoup partners about, and how we can extend the offers. Joel, did you want to touch on that anymore?
Yeah, I absolutely feel the frustration with it. But obviously, being here for nearly 6 years, I've had multiple conversations about it, and we at Charity Digital certainly recognise how important non-profit organisations in the UK are, such as community interest companies, community amateur sports clubs, and all in between as well. So our partners that you see on our catalogue, they're the ones who determine the eligibility criteria, not ourselves. If we determine the eligibility criteria, I'm sure that we would be having a very different conversation right now. There are a couple of offers that you might want to take advantage of. So for Cybersecurity Avast, they actually do they can provide the same discounted charitable rate to community interest companies, if you're looking to do that. Also, you might want to look up I mentioned a little bit earlier, our friends at In-Kind Direct. They register community interest companies. I'm not sure the full eligibility criteria are from their end, but they do welcome KICs and other non-profits as well to take advantage of their various donations. So sometimes it's hardware, sometimes it's great things like maybe something like toys for a baby bank or something like that. They're a really great organisation, so you might want to look up In-Kind Direct as well as one of the offers.
Yeah,
and also
the big one.
Sorry.
Yeah, Liz. Also.
Yeah. On the back of that, I was going to say that there is actually no restrictions for our non-for-profit .digital product, which is email marketing. You can be an organisation, and you don't even have to have a charity status, as long as you are working mainly with the charity scene or charity customers or clients. And so we have lots of trusts on board, and lots of other different types of non-for-profits as well.
Thanks so much. It's really helpful.
But we really do feel your pain, and we are often on the receiving end of really unhappy community interest companies that come through to us and say that it's like discrimination, it's really unfair, and we totally agree. So we will endeavour to update if anything changes as well, which I think it will, because I think they accept that it's sort of ludicrous. So yeah, thank you for that question, Victoria. I don't think we have anything else. I'm just having a quick scroll through the chats. As we've said before, the recording slides and the resources will be made available afterwards, including the answers to the questions. And yeah, so on the screen now is our customer service email address, which is my wonderful customer service team, Joel and a few others, and they look after all of the product requests and people that are trying to register with us, and also getting access to the discounted and donated tech. And then the charity digital mail support is Liz, who looks after our email marketing platform .digital, which she was just talking about. So those are two very useful emails to have to hand. And if you want to talk to any of us, whether that's the growth expert, Danielle, that we were talking to you about earlier, that has the kind of expertise on the Google ads, etc., just email customer service and we'll signpost you to the right people, because it's a really small organisation. There's only 22 of us. Excellent. Thank you so much. Is there anything else? No? Okay, well, thank you so much. We'll give you some time back in that case. And I don't know if people are joining on their lunch break. It's really, really sunny. I'm on the Kent coast in Folkestone, so it's really sunny out here. So maybe I'll go and get a little walk in. And thank you all so much for joining us. And yeah, looking forward to speaking to you all soon.